8 members, one group that redefined what a self-produced K-pop act could look like on a global stage. Stray Kids didn't climb to the top of the industry by accident. They built it, track by track, world tour by world tour. And somewhere along the way, they ended up in the passenger seat of James Corden's car. Now, carpool karaoke has a reputation for pulling out things artists never intended to say on camera. Loose questions, tight quarters, no escape route. And when Stray Kids sat down with one of late-night television's most disarmingly casual hosts, the conversation went exactly where you'd expect it not to go, straight into the personal. Who in a group of 8 grown men constantly on the road, sharing hotel corridors, tour buses, and packed dressing rooms, actually maintains the highest standard of personal hygiene? That's the kind of question that sounds like a joke until someone answers it seriously, and someone did. The answer wasn't who the fans predicted. It wasn't who the members themselves probably would have voted for. So before you assume you already know which member of SKZ takes the crown for being the cleanest and best smelling, think again. Number 8. The youngest in the room, IN. Young Jong-in, better known by his stage name IN, holds a very specific position in Stray Kids. He's the maknae, the youngest member of the group, born on February 8, 2001 in Gimpo, South Korea. In Korean group dynamics, particularly within K-pop, the maknae holds a role that is simultaneously the most coddled and the most teased. The older members look after him, yes, but they also have zero hesitation about putting him on the spot. That's just how it works. And in the context of a conversation about personal hygiene and who smells the best, being the youngest in a group of 8 competitive, high-performing men is not always an advantage. IN joined JYP Entertainment through their 2017 16-style survival content, ultimately debuting with Stray Kids on March 25, 2018, as one of 9 members, before Woojin's departure in 2019 left the group at 8. He was 16 years old when he debuted. Think about that for a second. At an age when most teenagers are navigating school cafeterias, Jong-in was already navigating international press calls, packed arena performances, and the relentless physical demands of a full K-pop production schedule. That kind of early exposure to professional life shapes a person, but it also means that the older members, some of whom were already veterans of the trainee system by the time IN arrived, had more years to establish their personal routines, preferences, and yes, hygiene habits. In Stray Kids' own documentary and variety content, including the behind-the-scenes series that JYP has released over the years, IN has consistently been portrayed as the member who is equal parts endearing and chaotic, not in a destructive way, but in the way that youngest children in tight-knit groups tend to operate: free-spirited, a little unpredictable, and not necessarily the first one in the group's shower line after a performance. The members have noted in multiple variety show appearances that IN tends to exist on his own schedule, which is a diplomatic way of saying that punctuality and routine are not always his strongest suits. There is also the matter of what it actually means to maintain a consistent hygiene routine while living the Stray Kids lifestyle. The group operates across a punishing global schedule, multiple world tours, including Maniac in 2022 and 5 Star in 2023, which collectively covered dozens of cities across North America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. Hotel rooms change every few nights. Time zones shift before your body has adjusted to the previous one. Under those conditions, personal care routines require active effort and discipline. The members who rank higher on any informal cleanliness scale are typically the ones who have made that effort a non-negotiable part of their day, regardless of how exhausted they are or how little time they have. For IN, who is still the youngest and arguably still developing those long-term personal rituals, that consistency is a work in progress, something even he has hinted at with his usual self-deprecating humor in fan interaction content. In the context of the James Corden conversation, IN wasn't singled out as a problem or called out in any harsh way. This isn't about scandal, it's about the simple, honest ranking that comes out when you ask 8 people who know each other better than most families do to be candid about something most people keep private. And in a group where Bong Chan will spend hours making sure every detail is right, where Lee No is famously meticulous about his personal space, and where Felix has a well-documented relationship with fragrance that borders on a hobby, being the youngest member who is still building those habits places Jong-in at the start of this list rather than the end. That said, number 8 does not mean irrelevant. It means there are 7 members whose habits, routines, and reputations made a stronger impression when the question came up. And the gap between 8th place and 7th place, it's smaller than you'd think. But the reason the next member ranks above IN has everything to do with one very specific and very public habit that sets him apart in a way nobody on the outside could have predicted. Number 7. The Studio Ghost, Han. Han Ji-sung was born on September 14, 1990 in Incheon, South Korea, but spent a significant portion of his childhood in Malaysia before returning to Korea to pursue his dream of becoming an artist. That kind of early displacement, moving between countries, adjusting to different cultures, navigating language and identity at a young age, built in him an intensity that never really left. When he eventually made it through JYP Entertainment's grueling trainee system and debuted with Stray Kids on March 25, 2018, it became clear very quickly that Han wasn't just a performer, he was a creator, compulsively and constantly, often at the direct expense of sleep and everything that comes with a normal human schedule. Han is 1/3 of 3 Racha, the production subunit within Stray Kids that also includes Bong Chan and Changbin. This trio is responsible for writing, composing, and producing the majority of Stray Kids' discography, a fact that has been consistently verified and celebrated as one of the defining characteristics of the group's identity. What that means in practice, behind the polished albums and the sold-out arenas, is that Han spends an enormous amount of his free time in a recording studio, not occasionally, routinely, obsessively. Members and Han himself have confirmed across multiple fan communication sessions, Stray Kids' own content series, and interview settings that Han is frequently the last one awake and often the one who didn't go to sleep at all. In the K-pop industry, being a night owl is common, but Han operates on a different level. There is documented evidence across the group's behind-the-scenes content, including their SKZ talker and various live streaming sessions, of Han surfacing from studio sessions looking visibly like someone who had been in a room with no windows for an extended period of time. He has talked openly about losing time when he's working, about the way music pulls him into a space where external reality, including basic self-maintenance, becomes secondary. This isn't character assassination. Han himself treats it as a point of identity. He wears his creative chaos as a badge, and the members tease him for it with the kind of familiarity that only comes from years of shared living. The shared dorm experience is particularly relevant here. Stray Kids lived together in a JYP-provided dormitory for years following their debut, and that proximity does not allow for illusions. You cannot fake being a clean, organized, well-groomed person when 8 people share a living space and a schedule. The members know exactly who leaves their studio snacks on the desk overnight, who falls asleep in their clothes after a late session, and who has to be reminded that emerging from 12 hours of production work requires a transitional hygiene step before rejoining humanity. Han's members, in characteristically affectionate fashion, have placed him in that category more than once. None of this diminishes what Han has accomplished as a creative force. He co-wrote tracks that charted globally. He contributed to albums that debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, something Stray Kids achieved with both Maxident in 2022 and 5 Star in 2023, making them one of a small number of Korean acts to reach that milestone. The creative output is real, impressive, and undeniable. But the cost of that output in terms of regular sleep cycles and consistent personal routines is also real, and it's the kind of cost that shows up in a very specific way when someone like James Corden asks a room full of people who genuinely know each other to be honest about something as unglamorous as personal hygiene. Han ranks above IN on this list for one simple reason. He has enough self-awareness and enough years of group living behind him to course-correct when the situation demands it. He knows when a public appearance requires him to be fully presentable, and he delivers. But as a baseline, day-to-day habit, the studio wins. Music wins. Sleep and its associated rituals come in a distant second. And that's exactly the kind of honest, lived-in detail that makes a late-night TV conversation actually interesting, because no amount of PR training prepares you for the moment your groupmate answers without hesitating. The next member on this list has a completely different reason for landing where he does, and it involves a habit so specific that once you hear it, you'll never look at him the same way again.
Number 6. The Iron Dedication, Changbin. Seo Changbin was born on August 11, 1999, in Anyang, Gyeonggi Province, South Korea. He is Stray Kids' main rapper, one-third of the 3RACHA production unit, and by any objective measure, one of the most physically transformed individuals in fourth-generation K-pop. If you followed Stray Kids from their debut in 2018 to their current status as one of the biggest acts in the world, you've watched Changbin build himself into something that looks less like a pop star and more like someone who takes the gym as seriously as he takes the recording booth. That combination, intense creative output and intense physical training, is exactly what makes his placement at number 6 on this list both logical and completely in character. Changbin's commitment to fitness has been extensively documented through Stray Kids' own content channels, fan-captured footage from public appearances, and his own communication with fans via platforms like Bubble. He works out consistently and with clear intention. His physique, which became a frequent topic of conversation among fans and within the group itself, is not accidental. It is the result of a disciplined, ongoing training regimen maintained across one of the most demanding schedules in the entertainment industry. World tours, album promotion cycles, variety appearances, music production sessions, and everything in between. The man does not skip the gym. Members have confirmed this. He has confirmed this. The footage confirms this. Here is where the hygiene dimension becomes relevant in a way that is entirely factual and requires no embellishment. Sustained, high-intensity physical training produces sweat, a lot of it, and in the context of a group that spends significant time in close quarters, tour buses, shared dressing rooms, back-of-stage corridors during arena productions, the aftermath of a serious workout session is not a private matter. It is a communal experience that everyone around you participates in, whether they volunteered to or not. Changbin's groupmates are very much aware of his training schedule and its immediate sensory aftermath, because they have no choice to be. This is not a criticism. It is physics. The same discipline that produces a physique his members openly admire is the same discipline that generates the kind of post-workout state that places him at number 6 in an honest ranking of who smells best in a given moment throughout the day. The distinction here is important. Changbin is not someone with poor hygiene habits. He is someone whose lifestyle creates more frequent and more intense hygiene demands than the average person or the average K-pop idol faces. When he is clean, he is clean. When he has just come from a workout, that is a different conversation entirely. There's also the matter of his performance energy. Changbin on stage is not a passive presence. He is kinetic, aggressive, and committed in a way that leaves him visibly exhausted after a set, which is again a testament to his work ethic rather than a flaw. His live performance footage, spanning multiple world tours, including Maniac and 5 Star, shows a performer who gives everything he has every single night. That kind of full-body output has physical consequences that follow him offstage, into the dressing room, and directly into the personal space of 7 other people who are also trying to recover and regroup between shows. What separates Changbin from the members ranked lower on this list is simple. When the situation demands it, he handles it. He is not cavalier about it. He is not someone who shrugs off the need to present well for a public event or a major interview. The discipline that governs his physical training also governs his preparation for high-visibility moments. But the baseline frequency of intense physical activity means that the window between just finished a workout and fully composed for public appearance is a window that opens wider for Changbin than for most of his members, and that window is exactly what this ranking is measuring. In a room full of men who sweat for a living, who perform under stage lights with full choreography across multiple hours, the question of who manages the aftermath best says a great deal about individual habits and priorities. And the member sitting at number 5, his reason for being there is absolutely nothing to do with the gym, and everything to do with something far more unexpected.
Number 5, the artistic visual, Hyunjin. Hyunjin, born on March 20, 2000 in Seoul, South Korea, occupies a central space in Stray Kids as one of the main dancers and a prominent visual. In the hyper-polished world of K-pop, maintaining a visual standard is a full-time job, but Hyunjin took it a step further when he decided to grow out his hair during the God's Menu era in 2020. That single stylistic choice redefined his public image, but it also introduced a level of personal maintenance that most people never have to consider. Long hair on a dancer who performs high-intensity choreography for hours under hot stage lights is not just a style choice, it is a logistical challenge. Sweat, styling products, hairspray, and dye all combine to create a routine that requires meticulous washing and conditioning, something Hyunjin has discussed during his behind-the-scenes vlogs and live streams. His dedication to his hair care routine is well documented, with members often noting that he spends a significant amount of time in the bathroom post-performance just dealing with his hair. Beyond the physical maintenance of his hair, Hyunjin is deeply invested in art, specifically oil painting, a hobby he picked up and has shared extensively with fans. Anyone who has ever worked with oil paints knows it is a messy, chemical-heavy medium that leaves a distinct scent of turpentine and linseed oil on the hands and clothes. Hyunjin has his own dedicated space for painting, but the nature of the hobby means he is often covered in paint smudges, balancing his high-maintenance beauty routine with the raw, messy reality of a working artist. In the dorms, this creates an interesting contrast. On one hand, you have a member who uses expensive perfumes and has a detailed skincare routine. On the other hand, you have someone whose clothes might smell of oil paint and who leaves art supplies scattered in his personal area. There is also his pet dog, Kami, a long-haired chihuahua that Hyunjin cares for deeply and frequently talks about, adding another layer of daily cleaning and pet care to his schedule. When James Corden's team or any variety show staff interacts with the group, Hyunjin always presents as exceptionally well-groomed and fragrant, often favoring woody or floral scents that fans have tracked down to specific high-end perfume brands. However, his fellow members, who see him when the cameras are off and the art supplies are out, view him through a more realistic lens. They know the effort it takes for him to transition from a messy artist covered in paint to the flawless, good-smelling idol who stands on stage. This duality is why he lands right in the middle of the list at number 5. He is not unclean by any stretch. In fact, his grooming standard is incredibly high, but the sheer physical demands of his dance style, the messy nature of his artistic pursuits, and his self-admitted tendency to let clothes pile up in his room keep him from claiming the absolute top spot. He represents the middle ground of the group, someone who works hard to stay clean and smell good, but whose lifestyle actively conspires to make that a constant battle. This delicate balance between art and hygiene makes him one of the most interesting members to observe, but it also leaves room for other members who have a more singular, less messy focus on their personal cleanliness. And as we move into the top 4, the habits of the members become less about managing mess and more about an active, almost obsessive pursuit of a signature scent, starting with a member whose reputation for smelling good is actually backed up by a very specific collection.
Number 4. The clockwork leader, Bang Chan. Christopher Bang, known globally as Bang Chan, was born on October 3, 1997 in Seoul, Korea, before his family relocated to Sydney, Australia, where he spent his formative years. As the leader, oldest member, and lead producer of Stray Kids, Bang Chan carries a level of responsibility that dictates almost every aspect of his daily schedule. Having spent 7 years as a trainee under JYP Entertainment before debuting in 2018, he is deeply accustomed to the rigors of institutional discipline and structured routines. This background manifests in a personal lifestyle that is highly efficient, bordering on mechanical. In various live broadcasts, particularly his long-running weekly show, Chan's Room, which ran for over 200 episodes, Bang Chan has discussed his daily habits with a level of transparency that fans appreciate. One of the most famous, verified facts about his personal hygiene routine is his speed. He has openly admitted, and his members have confirmed, that he can complete a full shower in under 5 minutes. In the high-pressure environment of a group tour, where 8 members plus staff must share limited facilities and stick to tight schedules, this level of speed is not just a personal quirk, it is a functional asset. However, this efficiency is driven by a deeper, more grueling reality. Bang Chan is famously sleep-deprived. He routinely works through the night in Chan's lab, the group's private studio space at the JYP headquarters, often sleeping for only 2 or 3 hours at a time, or sometimes skipping sleep entirely to meet production deadlines. This relentless work ethic has direct consequences for how he manages his personal environment. While he is fastidious about his personal hygiene to ensure he is presentable for the group's frequent public commitments, his workspace and personal belongings often tell a different story. The sheer volume of equipment he handles, laptops, hard drives, MIDI controllers, headphones, and cables, means his immediate surroundings are often cluttered with the tools of his trade. He is clean, but he is not neat in the traditional sense. He prioritizes functional readiness over visual order. Furthermore, his preference for comfortable, oversized black clothing, which has become his signature style, is another nod to utility over elaborate presentation. He does not spend hours selecting outfits or experimenting with a wide array of high-end colognes like some of his younger bandmates do. Instead, Bang Chan relies on a clean, straightforward approach to grooming that fits into the narrow gaps of his demanding schedule. During the group's appearance on James Corden's platform and other international press tours for their chart-topping albums like 5 Star and Rockstar, Bang Chan's role as the primary English speaker meant that he was always in the spotlight, requiring him to maintain a flawless professional presence at all times. He manages this pressure through sheer discipline, ensuring that even if he is running on 2 hours of sleep and a 5-minute shower, he smells clean and looks composed. This mechanical efficiency is what secures his place at number 4. He is a model of practical cleanliness, a leader who leads by example, even in how quickly he frees up the bathroom for the next member.
But there is a difference between being efficiently clean and being meticulously, deliberately neat. As the list enters the top 3, we transition away from functional speed and into a realm of deliberate, systematic cleanliness that defines the daily lives of the final 3 members, starting with one whose approach to hygiene is so precise it borders on a professional standard.
Number 3, the dandy precision Seungmin. Kim Seungmin, born September 22, 2000 in Seoul, South Korea, serves as one of the main vocalists of Stray Kids, a role that demands constant care of his throat, health, and overall physical condition. Known to fans and members alike by the nickname Dandy Boy, Seungmin has spent his entire career projecting an image of clean, structured reliability. This is not an act designed for the cameras. It is a fundamental part of his personality that has been verified across years of Stray Kids' domestic and international reality content. While some members struggle to maintain a consistent routine amid the chaos of global schedules, Seungmin treats personal care like a science. One of his most well-documented personal habits is his dedication to oral hygiene. In multiple behind-the-scenes videos, vlogs, and fan sign events, both Seungmin and his fellow members have confirmed that he brushes his teeth far more than the average person, often up to 6 times a day. He is rarely seen without a toothbrush in his bag, brushing immediately after meals, before recordings, and prior to any public appearances to ensure his breath is completely fresh. This fastidious attention to detail extends directly to his living environment. During the eras when the group shared dormitories and continuing into their current living arrangements, Seungmin has consistently been cited as one of the neatest members. His bed is always made, his clothes are folded or hung up precisely, and he has a low tolerance for clutter in his personal space. He is also known to be highly particular about his laundry, ensuring that his clothes are washed promptly, separated by color, and organized in his closet in a systematic fashion. When it comes to scents, Seungmin avoids the heavy, complex colognes favored by some of his peers. Instead, he openly prefers clean, soap-like or fresh laundry scents that give off a subtle, naturally clean aura. This preference aligns perfectly with his overall aesthetic, which is neat, composed, and classic. The discipline he applies to his hygiene is the exact same discipline he brings to his vocal training. Seungmin is famous within JYP Entertainment for his rigorous vocal logs, where he records his vocal exercises and notes areas for improvement daily. He approaches self-care with the same analytical mindset, viewing cleanliness not as a chore, but as an essential component of professional readiness. This athletic-like discipline is perhaps inherited from his family background, as his grandfather was a respected baseball player, instilling in him a deep respect for routine and preparation from a young age. When Stray Kids navigated the crowded backstage areas of major American talk shows during their promotions for albums like Ordinary and 5 Star, Seungmin's calm, fresh presence stood out as a stabilizing force. He is the member you can always rely on to look and smell like he just stepped out of a shower, regardless of how many hours he spent on a flight. This unwavering consistency is why he occupies the number 3 spot on this list. He represents the peak of systematic personal hygiene within the group, a standard that is both predictable and highly disciplined. Yet, as clean and fresh as Seungmin is, he is surpassed by 2 members who do not merely maintain cleanliness, but actively elevate it into a personal signature. The next member on our list takes the concept of personal scent so seriously that it has become an interactive experience for everyone who crosses his path, leading to some of the most memorable backstage stories in the K-pop industry. Number 2, the fragrance collector, Felix! Felix, born on September 15, 2000 in Sydney, Australia, has established himself as one of the most recognizable faces of Stray Kids, celebrated for his striking visuals, deep baritone voice, and exceptionally warm personality. Within the K-pop industry, Felix is frequently cited by peers, staff, and fans as the epitome of sensory elegance. This reputation is built on a very real, documented dedication to personal fragrance and grooming that goes far beyond the standard idol routine. Felix does not merely wear perfume, he curates a sensory experience. His relationship with high-end beauty is official. He has served as a house ambassador for luxury brands like Louis Vuitton and has been heavily featured in campaigns for Yves Saint Laurent Beauty. This professional alignment reflects his personal habits. Felix has shared in various interviews, magazine features, and fan communications that he is a passionate collector of perfumes. He famously favors complex, unisex scents, with one of his longtime signature fragrances being YSL's Libra, a scent known for its blend of lavender, orange blossom, and vanilla. Members of Stray Kids have verified on multiple occasions, including radio broadcasts and backstage vlogs, that Felix always smells distinctively sweet and pleasant, often leaving a trail of vanilla or floral notes behind him in the hallways. His bandmate, Han, once jokingly complained that Felix's presence is so fragrant it can be felt before he even enters a room. This olfactory presence is further enhanced by another of one of his well-known passions, baking. Felix is famous for baking batches of brownies, cookies, and other sweets for his bandmates, agency staff, and even host crews during promotions. The hours he spends in the kitchen result in his clothes and hair naturally absorbing the warm, sweet aromas of melted chocolate, sugar, and butter, creating a comforting scent profile that his members frequently comment on. Furthermore, Felix is highly particular about his laundry, specifically the type of fabric softeners he uses to ensure his clothes and bedding are always soft and carry a fresh, clean scent. This attention to fabric care is a key part of his routine, especially when living out of suitcases like massive world tours like Maniac and 5 Star. In addition to his focus on fragrance, Felix maintains a rigorous skincare regimen. He has shared detailed step-by-step guides of his multi-step routine, which includes deep cleansing, moisturizing, and the regular use of sheet masks, ensuring his skin remains clear and radiant despite the heavy makeup required for performances and photo shoots. During the group's global promotions, including their appearances on international programs and major fashion events in Paris and Seoul, Felix's meticulous self-care ensures he always presents a flawless front. He is the member who is most conscious of how he is perceived in close quarters, making sure that when he interacts with fans during intimate meet and greets or when he sits next to interviewers on late-night shows, his hygiene is impeccable. Because of this active, high-profile dedication to smelling and looking clean, Felix is the member most people, including the fans and the general public, would expect to see at the very top of this list. His reputation is so strong that he is almost synonymous with good hygiene in the K-pop community. Yet, in the context of the specific question posed to the group, the ultimate crown did not go to the expected fragrance ambassador. While Felix represents the gold standard of curated scents, the member who took the #1 spot achieved it through a completely different, much more fundamental approach to cleanliness that left even the host surprised. Number 1. The meticulous standard, Lee No. Lee Min-ho, known by his stage name Lee No, was born on October 25, 1998, in Gimpo, South Korea. As the main dancer and dance leader of Stray Kids, Lee No carries a reputation for technical precision, a sharp wit, and a no-nonsense attitude that stems from his years as a professional backup dancer, including touring with BTS before his JYP debut. While Felix is the expected candidate for the title of best smelling due to his public association with luxury perfumes, it is Lee No who represents the absolute pinnacle of fundamental cleanliness within the group. His approach to hygiene is not about masking scents with high-end colognes. It is about a relentless, systematic elimination of dirt and disorder. Throughout Stray Kids' reality programs and behind-the-scenes content, the members have consistently identified Lee No as the most meticulously clean individual in their ranks. One of his most famous, non-negotiable household rules is his strict ban on anyone sitting on his bed in outside clothes, those worn during schedules or travel. For Lee No, the boundary between the clean sanctuary of his personal space and the contaminated outside world is absolute. He is known to shower the moment he returns to the dorms, regardless of how late the schedule ended or how exhausted he is. While other members might collapse onto a couch or sleep in their stage clothes, Lee No immediately begins his decontamination routine. This discipline extends to his hands, which he washes constantly throughout the day, a habit that became even more pronounced during their grueling global tours, where public exposure is high. Furthermore, Lee No is an accomplished cook who frequently prepares meals for the other members, and his cooking style is defined by his habit of cleaning up dishes and wiping surfaces as he cooks, leaving the kitchen spotless by the time the food is served. His living space is kept in a state of constant order, with his clothes organized by type and color, and his personal items arranged with geometric precision. This fastidiousness is also reflected in his care for his three beloved cats, Sunyi, Doonyi, and Dory. Despite the challenges of managing pet hair and dander, Lee No maintains a spotless environment, ensuring his home remains free of the typical odors and clutter associated with pet ownership. Even when packing for international tours, he uses organized packing cubes to keep his gear separate and pristine. When the question of cleanliness arose during their promotional activities, the members did not hesitate to point to Lee No. His cleanliness is so thorough that he does not need to rely on heavy perfumes to project a pleasant aura. His natural scent is simply that of fresh laundry, soap, and clean air. This is what made the revelation to late-night hosts like James Corden so unexpected. In a world where K-pop stars are expected to wear signature designer fragrances, the cleanest member of the group is the one who relies on simple, uncompromising hygiene. Lee No's dedication to cleanliness is not a superficial trend, it is a core part of his self-discipline, an external extension of the control he exhibits in his intricate choreography. He proves that true hygiene is not about what you add to yourself, but what you keep away. And that uncompromising, quiet dedication to order is exactly why Lee No stands alone at the top of this list, proving that the best scent of all is the simple, honest smell of absolute cleanliness.